before we start is that everything that we talk about today is going to be based on mine, Ben's and Katie's interpretation of the multiple bits of information that are within the industry. Okay, this is the bits that we've used, this is information that we've used to get the results with our clients. We're not saying that this is the only way you can get results, we're just using today to outline what we use to get results with the clients that we've got so far, okay? So, as we go forward. First off, I'm going to start off with just a small statistic, okay? So, currently 1 in 4 adults in the UK are obese. In 2050, as you can see, it's predicted to be far worse. 60% of males, 50% of females, 25% of children, as I say, are predicted to be obese. That's not just overweight, that's... Can you guys see from there? Sorry, clinically obese. So this it's come a lot of the time from the information from the government and advertisement. A lot of false information has been put out to the to the general population, really. So what we're trying to do is to help put a better education out there so people understand perhaps what might be better choices. They can educate not just themselves, their children, grandchildren, so it filters through further generations. Okay. So, diet. So, like a little bit of feedback from you guys. So, when I see the word diet, straight away, what does it make you think? Just a couple of things, if you call out. If you hear someone say the word.
Losing weight.
Losing weight. I mean, okay, that's good. Okay. And restriction. Restriction, yeah, good.
Being hungry.
Hungry. Hard work, or some of the others. Exactly, yeah, so a time restriction perhaps, that's right. So that's why we try not to ever use the word diet as we go forwards, okay? The things that we're going to be trying to instill in you guys, we're trying to get you to change, are going to be habits, okay, or lifestyle change. It sounds a bit cheesy perhaps, but lifestyle, approaching it that way, is the best way to make changes long term. It's really easy to change something for a short time, but then naturally you're going to revert back to what you were doing before in perhaps a state that you weren't happy. So, like we said, some of the things going forwards. So restriction, perhaps thinking you're not going to be able to have a lot of the foods that you're currently having. Short term, see a lot of diets in the industry that are, 2 weeks, 2 days, just loads of different things out there. Stressful, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. So stress from partner, family, work, the situations which might make you feel like, you're different perhaps, or weird. Hear that a lot. And calorie counting as well. The concept of perhaps with the recommended daily allowance being 2,000, people think if they just restrict their calories by 500, for example, they're going to lose weight. Generally, that's not going to work. Essentially, well, especially not long term. So here's just a quick quote from the American psychologist, which basically says, up to 66% of individuals following the calorific model of weight loss end up fatter 2 years later than when they started the diet. Any other model in any other discipline with a failure rate this high would have been decided long ago. They would use this, basically saying that if you follow that model of just restricting your calories for, it's going to work. It might work potentially for a short period, but eventually it will end up to you either being the weight you were before, but probably a higher weight than you were before. Okay, so what we're trying to get you to understand is we're not going to be trying to get you guys to necessarily restrict calories. It's just the type of calories that's important. So if we look at, I've got an example here. So if we take a Siamese twin example, essentially you've got two people that are exactly the same. Person A consumes, we'll say 2,000 calories worth of processed foods, lots of sugar perhaps, a typical perhaps Western diet, and then and then you have the second person who would consume, say, 3,000 calories, but those calories make up of meats, fishes, vegetables, fruits, etc. Even though they're consuming 1,000 calories more, you can imagine that the difference between the two is going to end up a lot different, okay? It's much more important to assess what's in the calories as opposed to just how many, okay? So, that being said, Ben's going to come in now and explain the concepts of...
So before we move forward, has anybody got any questions on any of that?
What constitutes obese?
Well, it goes into the realms of government BMI, really, which we don't really agree with too much. Yeah, if you look at BMIs, mine says I'm bordering obese and overweight because I'm short but heavy. Because I'm short and heavy, you know, my BMI rings up as quite high. So it doesn't really account for the muscle mass that an individual might hold. But it's basically to do with that. So you can find the BMI lists all online.
It's just an indicator. It's like Ben said, it's just because it only takes into account your height and weight. It's just an indicator, really. But so based on that, you can imagine that perhaps some of the people, if they were quite muscle bound, might not fit into that. However, as a vast majority, if you looked at a person's BMI, it would give you at least a decent indicator of how overweight or obese they would be.
So if anybody has any questions, anywhere, you know, any going forward of any of the slides, just put your hand up and we'll answer it as we go through. All right. Okay. Okay. So Metro Paleo then. So put your hands up in the room if you currently a paleo style lifestyle at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Now keep your hand up in the air if you went out and caught your meats this morning, picked your veg out of the ground. Okay, so this is why we refer to it as a metro paleo versus a classic paleo lifestyle. Okay, a traditional paleo would obviously be out hunting your meats and picking your veg, right? Metro meaning obviously we just nip to the supermarket, pick up our fruit and veg there. All right. So obviously that's where that term comes from. What it really means is basically, in a nutshell, it needs to, as you can see up there, run, fly, swim, and generally it needs to be green. So it needs to have lived in some form, and you need to be able to pick it out of the ground. So the example I've got on there is, obviously you can pick berries from a bush, but you could dig out a donut from the ground. Definitely not. The last one I've got on there is one ingredient food. So generally what you're looking for is, you know, a nut is a nut, there's nothing else to it. You know, if you pick up a ready meal, you know, the ingredients are tons, right? So you're looking for single nutrient, single ingredient food. Moving forward, Metro Paleo, the general rule of it is obviously trying to rule out all the processed foods, okay? So obviously that includes things like grains and everything else, the majority of stuff that's farmed. We're obviously looking for our fruits and veg and most of your meats, basically. As you can see up on here, over on the right-hand side, we've got the two pyramids here. The top pyramid is a classic government pyramid that they would promote, okay? And where our calories and nutrients should come from. So you've got the bottom run there, which you see in the green run, where it says breads, okay? So they suggest that the majority of our nutrients come from basically grains and breads. Okay, the next one up, we've obviously got the yellows, veggies and fruits, then the red and purple, dairies and meats, and then sweets at the very top, okay? Now, if you look at the bottom one down here, if you can see it, that would be a Metro Paleo style pyramid, okay? So you can see the bottom run is basically comes from meats and fishes. The next one up would be fruits and veggies, and then the top one you've got nuts and berries. I would actually put nuts and berries in with the fruit, and the top bracket would probably be starches, so things like sweet potato, butternut squash, parsnips, things like that, as a small amount. So you can see the bottom pyramid versus the top one there, that they're pretty much straight end on end, and that they're basically complete opposites of the way that a classic pyramid would work. So with obviously the Metro Paleo, the things, you know, in this bottom pyramid here, we're looking to, there's no room for dairy, there's no room for soy, no gluten, no wheat, anything like that. All of those are basically cut out. Again, that's, you know, that's a general rule of what we found, and it will work for most people. Not always the case for everyone, all right?
Okay, so sometimes people will say, okay, so based on the foods that we just suggested that we try and eat a majority of, people always ask, well, how would that fit into a food plan? So this would be an example of what a day would look like for me. Now, bear in mind, my training volume perhaps would be higher than most people in the room, my body weight is different, etc. So it's specific to me, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how my day would be set up. So you see I've got a fair few different meals throughout the day. A breakfast would typically be steak, cooked in coconut oil, some nuts. Then I'd have a shake after I train. We'll go through the nutrition, the boot camp recovery stuff shortly. Mid-morning, perhaps a snack of 200 grams of beef and in lettuce leaves. So I used to love sandwiches, so psychologically putting something in a wrap like that makes it a little bit better for me. Lunch might be, I don't know, typically a stir fry. Again, trying to make it coconut milk, spinach, peppers. Sometimes a good thing if I'm doing like a curry, for example, again for a psychological factor, I'll get green beans, dice them very, very fine and pretend they're rice. I mean it's not rice, but it helps psychologically perhaps. Again, mid-afternoon might be something small, have the nuts, some veg. Dinner might be fish, green beans, that sort of thing. I've got quinoa and parsnips in brackets. Again, we're going to go through carbohydrates shortly, but again, it might depend on whether I've been training or not, but it'll be a good source in the evening. And then a teaspoon of almond butter, perhaps before bed. Water will be typically at least 4 litres. Again, we'll go through water shortly. Protein, 300 grams. However, so that's not really applicable to a lot of you. So Katie's going to come in now and show how her day might differ. Being female, a lot less body weight, it might be able to relate to you guys a lot more. So
my diet is quite different to James's in the fact that I sit behind the desk for 8 hours a day, so I don't have access to cooked food. So my prep has to be the night before, and it has to be something that I enjoy eating cold. So I tend to, my breakfasts, for example, tend to be a lot more fish and greens, some nuts, some avocado, that sort of thing. And I aim for that and then another 4 meals a day. So the idea is that I eat consistently every 3 hours max, so that I never go hungry. Because if I go hungry, I'll go to the vending machine and get whatever I can out of it. I will normally eat breakfast around 5:30, 6 in the morning because I'm training. And then I will have a snack a few hours later. So I tend to snack on cucumber, sugar snack peas, green peppers even. So they are a little bit sweeter. Probably not advised if you're trying to lose body fat, but
you'd be alright. You can eat green pepper. You can eat as much green pepper as you want. Don't worry about that.
They're sweeter than cabbage or
Yeah.
So I don't eat 300 grams of protein a day. I'll probably eat a little bit less, 250 maybe.
We're going to go through protein goals shortly. So that amount of protein is a lot of protein. We don't say that everyone should get that amount. Again, this would probably be a top bracket for me, but you get 250.
Yeah, about that. I'll try to. So my daytime meals normally consist of cold chicken, cold fish if I can stomach it, maybe a bit of lamb, and it's just normally lettuce. So the lettuces is cos lettuce, spinach, curly kale is actually really nice, not cooked, believe it or not. So I'll have those 2 meals during work, and I'll snack again on peppers, green veg, and then dinner is normally some sort of carb, so sweet potato, butternut squash, quinoa. How do you say that? I say quinoa, but it's quinoa, isn't it?
So you like quinoa?
Quinoa. That's what I said. Yeah.
Does everyone know what quinoa is or quinoa? Yeah? No. It's like it's kind of like rice. It's a grain essentially, but because of the fibre content, again we're going to go through carbohydrates in it shortly, but you can find quinoa or quinoa. I'm not sure which way it's said properly, but you can find it at any supermarket, usually in maybe in the Asian section or something like that.
The Chinese,
the world foods sort of section you can find it.
Or you can get it from Holland and Barrett and that sort of place. And then I'll have a full meal in the evening. And then before bed, I tend to have maybe some cashew butter and a shake, or almond butter and a shake.
Okay, great.
Anything that I can.
So you can see that.
For the night.
So you can see that even though the amounts might differ, the food types are probably quite similar. Obviously, me and Ben perhaps have the luxury of having more time to prepare our foods at lunch, which is where because Katie's very lean, and it shows because she's got such dedication to eating cold fish at lunchtime. I'm not sure I could do that. So that's where perhaps, the chicken or or meat-based I prefer, but that gives you an insight into perhaps how a couple of days is set up. As you can see, that's a lot of food. So what I'm trying to reiterate is the fact of you don't have to restrict the amount of calories that you eat to a degree. Obviously, if you overeat a huge amount, then there's a chance that you're going to keep weight on. But I could quite happily reduce my body fat eating this amount because of the types of food that I'm eating rather than the amounts. Okay. So then.
Okay, so next thing we'll talk about is habits then. So, for those of you who haven't eaten or haven't really grasped paleo before today, that's obviously going to sound like a massive change. All of those foods, looking at that previous plan, that's a lot to change. And it can be very, very daunting. And now if you introduce too many changes at once, it's impossible, right? It's just not going to be achievable. So what we've got on here is we basically recommend three changes a week. So we're going to go over, as a rough guideline, we're going to go over 3 changes that we hit today. Water is a big one. Breakfast we're going to cover, and then your recovery shakes post-workout, basically. So for those of you who this is new to, if you just focus on those 3 goals coming away from this, and nail those, and then you can look at introducing other things as you go along. That'll make it a lot more achievable. So moving up to there.
Okay, so carbohydrates. Here we go. So,
Big one.
it's a big one. So possibly the most detrimental factor within a diet, possibly. Not, but the problem with carbohydrates is not everyone is intolerant. So some people you'll see, without naming names in the room, there's a couple that I can look at, and they can eat as many carbohydrates as they want, and they won't put on fat, they'll put on muscle tissue. Genetically, they're gifted to be able to handle them, okay? I won't name them because they'll get embarrassed, but they know who they are. But for the most part, most people are, 75% of people tend to be intolerant to carbohydrates, okay? So the problem with that is, when you take in carbohydrates, your body recognises the glucose, okay? Glucose is what's within carbohydrates. Then it raises insulin, which is a hormone, okay? Now, if your insulin level, so when you take in glucose, you either transport it to muscles, to a liver, but if both those places are full, then the rest gets stored as fat, okay? So what we're trying to say is you can have carbohydrates if you deserve them. Do you deserve your carbs? So going on to the next slide, we'll go through some of the things that might affect that. So individual tolerance, as I was saying, how sensitive you are, or how carbohydrate tolerant you are. Now the only real way to know 100% is to get your glucose levels tested. It's a little bit expensive. You can probably do it through the doctors and stuff like that, but it's not always an easy thing to do, okay? But that's why the Basingstoke for us works really well. It's not always 100%, but it gives us a really good indication of whether or not you'll be able to, or how many carbohydrates you'll be able to handle. Next one up, exercise level. So how hard you train, how often you train. That's a really big factor into, again, how many carbohydrates you can tolerate. The more you train, the better, obviously, or in terms of carbohydrates anyway. The timings, so pre-workout, post-workout, mornings, evenings. Okay, as a general rule, having carbohydrates later in the day will be better. So one of the myths that's in the industry currently is if you have carbohydrates like after 6 o'clock, so if you have it at 6:01, no good. That's not true. The later in the evening you have your carbohydrates, the better. And I'll go through that when we go through breakfast and show you why. But again, having them post-workout is a lot more effective to having them pre-workout. Again, we'll discuss why shortly. But timings is important.
Jane, sorry, when you talk about carbs, you're talking about whole glucose versus sugar and starch.
Hang on a second.
We'll cover that in a second, I think.
Here we go. And the last type. So the last one, we've got types. Okay, so we've got the ones I've listed there: sweet potato versus a Mars bar. They're both carbohydrates. but as you can imagine, the difference between the two is quite large. Now, carbohydrates, the best types that we're talking about here when we're talking about carbohydrates would be the ones that have the most fibre, okay? So it slows down your uptake of blood sugar, basically, when you're eating a meal, okay? Fibres, that's one of the most important things it does. Fibre also helps to detoxify the body and balance your blood sugar. So, best types would be, as Ben mentioned, sweet potato, quinoa, butternut squash, parsnips, certain types of fruits. So, thin skin would be better than thick skin. So, berries, cherries would be better than bananas, pineapples, just because the sugar load is a lot less, the antioxidant level is a lot more. Okay, so that's what you balance out. So those are the types. If you start to introduce, those ones are the best types to have. The problem with things like pasta, bread, all those sorts of things, that they contain things like wheat and gluten, like we said before, which we're trying to avoid. Most people do really badly on those sorts of things. They'll be intolerant, they'll get lots of reactions that they might not even know they get. Bloating, lethargic, digestive issues. So again, you can get tested for that 100% by getting sent off for allergy testing, but it's a really easy thing to remove, gluten and wheat, by just sticking to the types of carbohydrates that I was saying before. Okay, so let's say the sweet potato, butternut squash, those sorts of things. So have we got any questions about that? I'm sure we have, about any carbohydrate-based things. Please don't be scared. Please just...
Can I ask, so you're saying the sweet potato is allowed. What about white potato?
Okay, so sweet potato and white potato, the difference between the two. So who's heard of the term glycemic index? Yeah, a few of you. Okay, so glycemic index is basically a rating system that shows how quickly the food that you're eating affects your blood sugar. Okay, so if you looked at, so let's take it to a simpler example. If you looked at a carrot versus, a good example is a carrot versus pasta. Now, on the glycemic index scale, a carrot is rated about 54, okay? To give you an idea, table sugar is about 100, okay? So carrot is 54. So you might look at that and think, well, carrots aren't that great. And pasta, white pasta, would be about 25. So you look at the two of those and think, maybe I should be eating more pasta and not carrots. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't take into account the portion size. So if you take into account, say, you might eat 100 grams of pasta, but you might only eat 4 grams of carrots. Now, without getting too much into the equation, you basically have to times the amount of food that you eat by the glycemic index, and that will give you a glycemic, and then divide it by 100, and it will give you a glycemic load. So if you Google glycemic load, that's a lot better indicator of the types of the food that you're eating and how it affects. So to get back to your question, Zeus, white potato versus sweet potato, when you look at the glycemic load of it, a white potato comes up much higher, and that's because a sweet potato has a lot more fibre in it, so it slows up the intake of your nutrients. White potatoes tend to be a lot more contaminated as well.
I was just wondering about fruits, because we're always told that we can eat lots of fruit, and we should eat lots of fruit, and especially I love tomatoes, but there's like lots of sugar, isn't there?
There is, and fruits is something that is, again, a little bit controversial. Fruits are really good in most cases, but if you're looking for fat loss as a rule, we tend to try to limit them to start with, and then that will be one of the first things that we introduce back in. So again, looking at the thinner skin things first, so berries, blueberries, raspberries, those sorts of things. But if you eat tons and tons of fruit a day, then it's going to be one, perhaps, roadblock to fat loss. Okay. I know you eat a lot of fruit, don't you? But
yeah, I do. But I did cut it out when I was trying to get leaner. So I cut it all out, and then I started to introduce it gradually once I was getting to where I wanted to be. But it definitely helps with fat loss to cut it out.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Anything else before we move on? Again, we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So if you have anything, just keep it in your head, and we'll go over it then.
So the other nutrients, obviously we covered carbohydrates. Next one we'll cover is proteins. So obviously the role of proteins is, you can see there, there's obviously muscle repair and building. It's also used to support your immune system and detoxification of your body. Obviously proteins meaning meats, fishes and vegetables. Meats, fishes. As a general rule, we've got listed there, so you can see 2.2 grams between 2.2, 2.5 and 4.4 grams per kilo of body weight. That's obviously quite a big gap between that. Obviously, like we said before, James's need for protein versus someone who sits at a desk a lot is obviously going to be a lot different, right? Obviously, if you think of goals as well, James's goal might be to put on muscle, where someone else's might be somewhere different. So obviously, it can be anywhere there in between, as it's just a rough guideline. Females is a little bit less, between 2 and 3 grams per kilo of body weight. Okay. Again, that does vary a lot between training times and goals and stuff like that. Fats is the next one. So firstly, again, through misinformation really, a lot of people would just avoid fat quite often, low fat, etc, etc. Now there's only generally one type of fat that we should be avoiding, which is trans fatty acids. Okay. Now these are basically man-made altered fats. Okay. So the type of fats that would be in cakes, biscuits, things like that, things that have been melted down and then go solid again, generally cookies, vegetable oils, stuff like that. Obviously, the role of fats is actually really important. Obviously, the first one is an energy source. So as soon as people start going low-fat diets, they tend to be very tired. It also plays a massive role in the optimization of your hormones. So to balance basically your testosterone and estrogen levels, low-fat diets tend to screw that up quite a lot. Insulation as well, keep you warm. So all the other types of fats we are looking to actually increase for a paleo lifestyle. So you've got polyunsaturated, which basically omega-3s that come from fishes. Okay. Now we get a lot of 6 and 9 already in our diet, so omega-3s are easily the most important. So if you are going to supplement with that, omega-3s, not 6 and 9s. We've got mono unsaturated, which generally come from avocados and nuts. Okay. And then you've got saturated fats, which will come from oils and butters, okay, organic butters. Those are all really good fats that you need to increase. All right. Like I said before, if there's low fat, it's generally going to be basically terrible for you. Removing the fat out of anything basically makes it flavourless, and then companies chuck in a load of sugar and other substances to make it tasty again. All right. So generally, it's high sugar if it's low fat. So if you can have anything, have high fat. Next we're going to cover is water goals. Okay. So again, as a rough guideline, we're looking for 39 millilitres of water per kilo of body weight. Okay, so you can probably all figure that out on what you need. For example, 91 kilo guy looking for around 4 litres of water. Okay. Dehydration plays a massive role in everything really. If you're dehydrated, you're going to have decreased strength levels. You're obviously going to be very, very sluggish, unproductive. It's going to be a massive increased stress on your body. You're also going to struggle to burn body fat, and the detoxification process through your liver is going to really struggle as well. Okay, so water is a massive thing that people miss out. So to keep hydrated is really important. Obviously, you need to think about the demand. Obviously, if you're training 4 or 5 times a week, sweat a lot. Obviously, you're going to need to drink more than that water goal on there. Obviously, if you're training in a hot environment, again, your water intake is going to go up versus maybe not sweating so much.
Sorry, Ben.
Yeah.
As far as the water goal goes,
yeah.
Without being too impolite, what happens if you're weeing an awful lot? Because if I try and get 3 or 4 litres of water into me, I'm in the toilet.
It's quite normal. What we don't want you to do is, let's just say, for argument's sake, you're drinking 1 litre of water right now. And if you come away from today and go, okay, I'm going to drink 4 litres now, starting from tomorrow, you're going to pee a load. And it's going to be hard to hold down that water. Now, it's something that I found with best is you just increase it slowly. So let's say the next week you're going to increase your water intake from 1 litre to 2, and then the week after that you increase it to 3, and so on. So it's something you gradually increase, and your body gets used to it as you go. For me, when I'm drinking a lot of water, I find I'm getting up in the night and I'm peeing maybe two or three times a night, as it does my head in. So what I'll generally do is I'll drink a lot more water in the day and then less in the evening. And again, as you gradually increase that slowly, your body will be a lot more used to it.
But you don't try and keep the, you don't think, well, I've taken in 2 litres of water, but I've probably expelled.
No, because your body's flushing it out. That's a
out.
natural detoxification process.
You don't take that off the bottom line then, what you think.
No. I mean, the things that would go negatively against it would be things like coffee, alcohol. If you take a lot of vitamin C, they're all going to dehydrate you further. So if you drink a lot of coffee, then yes. Drink a lot of tea, like caffeine products, then yes, that helps flush water out. Your body is detoxifying that. Same as when you drink alcohol, right? You pee a lot because your body's trying to flush all the alcohol out of your system, and your body will use your water reserves to do that. So if that's the case, then yes, you'll need to drink more. But generally, if you're just weeing off, then wouldn't worry about it too much. If it's what I did in the evenings, a good trick to do is if you use Celtic sea salt in a little bit of water before bed, that helps you retain a lot more water, and it will stop you weeing in the evening if that's a problem. So covering next is breakfast, I think. Smithy?
Okay, just a quick add-on from that. One thing, so Katie, as you can see here, she's got some lemons in her water, okay? So adding lemons or limes to your water is a really good thing to do. It will really help to alkalise your system, okay? So so your body's got a natural, essentially a pH balance, it's acid versus alkaline. The more alkaline you sit, the better you sit, the more resistant you are to disease. Disease can't grow in an alkaline environment, basically. So increasing things like lemon and lime in your water, I know it sounds weird because they're acidic, but when they're broken down in your body, they become alkaline. Okay, so lemon and lime to your water is one really good thing to do, as well as making sure you've got loads of green vegetables, things like that, to help to balance out your system. Another point is water doesn't count if you drink it with squash. Now, it took me when I was first starting, I mean, now I'm really anal when I go through everything with people, but to start with, I didn't assume that if I said to someone to drink 2 litres of water, that drinking 2 litres of squash would, in their head, equate to 2 litres of water. So, water must be water, okay? Watered down fruit juice, water with your vodka, no good.
just quickly, before we move on, like James was saying about the alkaline in the water. Some guy from, I don't know his name, but some guy from America won the Nobel Prize for proving that diseases cannot grow in an alkaline environment. So if you're, as a health perspective as well, if you can alkalise your water, it's a very good health benefit. It's really good.
And it also makes it tastier as well. So
yeah.
If you taste of water, just put lime in it, it's like drinking squash then, almost.
Okay, so moving on. So breakfast, big one. Here we go. So opposite ends of the spectrum for an obvious reason. Okay, so I want to show you. So on the left, we've got a bowl full of cereal, perhaps Special K. People love Special K. Versus a pretty rare-looking steak on the right-hand side. So that perhaps might be completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm going to show you what to do, perhaps to go from, if you're closer to the left, to perhaps get closer to the right, and why it might be better for you. Okay. So first off, first thing that you put in your mouth in the morning, dip, as long as it's food.
It's always somewhere.
It's always somewhere. First thing you put in your mouth in the morning, as long as it's food, it dictates energy drive,